All right. Well, look, good morning, everybody. Glad to have you all here at team meeting. This is a new time, obviously. We had our first team meeting of the year last Tuesday, in the middle of all the snow.
Apparently it's not available.
We actually had a really great crew, over 20 people on the call, had productive conversation. We talked about shift tactic number 7 and listing strategies to win. So look, let's dive in. We've got some fun stuff to go through. We will hit this at every team meeting. This is our culture in action. And what you see here on this side of the screen are the 52 action items, right? And so we're going to go through all 52. And we started last week with 1 and 2. This week we've got number 3 and 4. So this is what separates us. And again, we will always talk about our culture because we believe that it matters, and how we treat people and how we're professional is a big deal. So number 3, complimenting others regularly. This for some people is tough. I'm someone who doesn't like compliments, mainly because I don't know how to receive them and what to do with them. It's like you get up there and it's like people's fear of public speaking. I have a fear of getting a compliment because I don't know what to do with it. But complimenting others regularly, that's a big piece of our culture. Celebrating some small wins and encouragement is, I think, the biggest piece here. Number 4, being a part of the solution and not the problem in the office, right? This is a big one. And in real estate, you are a professional problem solver. So you figuring out how to provide solutions and being solutions based is a big part of what will make you successful, but also what's going to make you a great colleague and co-op as you navigate the real estate industry, right?
Perfect culture and action for today's teaching.
Yeah, we've got some fun things to talk about with the teaching moment. I'm looking forward to it. Lexi helped me put that together. Want to hit some birthdays. Jeff Green's birthday is today. If you see him, make sure you give him a howdy and a happy birthday. Last I checked, he was on the slopes somewhere in Colorado. So I think he's having a great birthday. Greg regards, tomorrow. Craig's coming up this weekend. Then we've got Scott, Isabella, Sarah, Steve, and Greg. So if you see or know any of these folks, make sure you say happy birthday. We also added to the family Taylor Kays and her, I think, boyfriend. Welcomed little guy, Zaire Blaze. I'm not even going to try the last name. Just know that little man is loved. We had a fun, I think, baby shower the girls put on.
That she missed. Taylor missed.
Oh, no.
She went to get in her car and she couldn't see anything. So she ended up going to the hospital instead of coming to her baby shower. So we ended up like FaceTiming her. Mary became Taylor.
That's okay.
Today. It was great.
I trust that she got everything and everybody had fun with the games and the food. But this little man joined us and we are thrilled about that. All right, we don't have very many people here, but guess what? That doesn't remove the requirement for me that we have 3 bucket fills. So maybe it means somebody who would otherwise not share gets to share. So bucket fills, this is a shout out, a thank you of encouragement that you've gotten help this week. They don't have to be in the room, but where have you been helped this week? Whose bucket do you want to fill? Go ahead, Trisha.
I would fill Lexi's for, and everyone does like the smart plan for dummies and literally does the work for us, and all we have to do is send it. And it's amazing, and I got great responses to folks, when I did the winter weather check-in. Didn't actually have to do anything, she did it all, so shout out to her, and it's a great way to connect.
Yeah, I want to kind of piggyback off that. Sherry, you said you got a ton of responses from just implementing that weather smart plan. Did you have it? So tell me about that a little bit, kind of the responses you got. Good.
Everybody pretty much said thank you for checking out us. And then if they responded to me, then I just sent them a message and said, yeah, you're doing good, and just kind of followed that.
Yeah.
Feel like that it's
Business like it was you cared, right? And that was the whole point. When Lexi and I talked about that smart plan, this is a personal touch. It's not about business, it's about truly a check-in where you're checking in and building that relationship, building that rapport back. And these are people you might not have talked to in 3-6 months, but you're checking in on them. They know you care, and it builds the foundation for some other conversation, right? And so that's a big one. And you're right. Lexi You said it, creating smart plans for dummies, and we've got these things rolling, right? It's a big deal. All right,
Making it grab and go, thank you.
Yeah.
Because we always think, oh, we need to do this, but then we have 47 other things on the to-do list, so you made it,
all right,
it's done, just do it.
all right, two more bucket fills. What do we got? Whose bucket do you wanna fill? We've got an hour in here, folks.
I will fill, probably, Trisha was one of the people, anybody who contributed anything to the reception yesterday. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, thank you for that. Appreciate all of the things that come with the wants and willingness to provide stuff for our family when we need it, so.
So we had the funeral visitation yesterday for Tara and Zoe's grandbaby. Had a reception here, and KWC folks really came out and supported. So we appreciate you all, and the grace that you all have within dealing with, just an unimaginable tragedy. We've got a fireman in the building.
Stay calm.
Yeah, I think they're checking in. I believe we're safe. If you weren't, then we'll not be in the building. All right, one more bucket fill. Who's got it? Who's got, Holly, you look like you got something to say.
I say Lexi again, she checked on me during the
Yeah.
weather, which was nice.
Yeah.
See how I was doing.
Yeah, I think it's nice when you have people who also check in on you. So as you all were checking in on your people, hopefully that you heard from us checking in on you. So thank you all for cooperating with me and participating in my weekly bucket fill. Weekly bucket fill. All right, so here's where the fun begins. And if you thought the bucket fill was scary and you didn't want to participate, well, guess what? This is real estate. And so we're gonna talk about a few scenarios. And the reason why I think we should talk about these, just personally, I have a lot of conversations with agents before I think it gets escalated to Bo around real estate and what to do in certain situations. So Hallie, would you mind to just read scenario one, and then we are gonna problem solve together how we would handle this particular scenario.
All right. A home inspection on a property in Hamburg, Lexington, revealed significant foundation issues that weren't disclosed, likely due to the finished basement concealing the damage. The buyers love the location due to its proximity to Hamburg Pavilion and want to stay in this area for the schools, but the repair estimates range from $20,000 to $30,000. The sellers initially offered $5,000 in repair credits, claiming the issue isn't as severe as the inspector suggests. The buyers are already stretched thin on their down payment and closing costs, but don't want to lose their place in this desirable neighborhood. The house has been on the market for 45 days.
Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We are going to be the buyer's agent here. All right, so in this scenario, you've got a couple of things. Those of you who want to share maybe are a little more experienced in real estate. What are the key bits of information here in this scenario? As a buyer's agent, where are your alarm bells going off?
The amount of the estimates automatically just maybe not want the buyers to purchase the house.
Okay, so as a buyer's agent, who is the fiduciary and somebody who's skilled and has experience, that repair estimate being in the $20,000 to $30,000 range is something you feel as their agent, maybe this house isn't right for them. Okay, all right, what else? What are some other issues in this scenario? Buyers really want it, but they are stretched thin.
Gotta go back and negotiate.
Okay,
Look, Mr. Seller's agent. Your folks really need to sell this house. Now you know this issue that you have to disclose to everyone now.
Mhm.
You're going, whether you negotiate this with my folks now, or
Yeah.
you cut us loose and then you're negotiating the same thing with somebody else 2 months from now.
yeah,
Let's get this wrapped up for both of us, both of our clients. We need to move forward and take a credit of $30,000.
yeah. Look, let's answer this question. The fact that there's a home inspection happened, are you under contract?
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, in this scenario, you're under contract. Right? You have an executable contract to get from the second you sign to the closing date, right? So scenario number one, we are under contract here. And what we know from the scenario is the damage in the basement was not disclosed. Okay, so let's, for the sake of argument here in scenario one, get to the point where the sellers were actually unaware. Right? They filled out a seller's disclosure. They were honest with what they knew about. Right? And they didn't know about any kind of foundation issue. Do you think a couple of 2x4s and insulation and drywall covering the basement wall would limit your ability to see any kind of foundation issues? Yeah, I would imagine. So it's probably safe to say they did not know. Right? And you can make that assumption based on the basement being finished, which is what? Is that a bonus for these potential buyers? The finished basement? I'd say so, probably. Right? Especially right here in Hamburg, a finished basement. That's a good thing, right? And the sellers likely didn't know, but you had a home inspection. Great job, buyer's agent, making sure that your buyer signed a contract with an inspection in place. Okay? And for the sake of argument, we're on the new contract. Right? And at some point in negotiation, the sellers offered $5,000 in repair credits. Probably because they are on some sort of timeline. They want to get the house marketed and sold. Their listing agent probably said, hey, maybe we should offer this. Right? But they're claiming the issue isn't severe as the inspector suggests. That's another key point here in this scenario. So if you as the buyer's agent know you're under contract, might even be alarmed at the $20,000 or $30,000 repair cost, what is something you might say to your buyer clients? Especially if the sellers think it's not as severe as the inspector believes. Are we considering a second opinion?
Yeah, but then you got who's paying for the another estimate.
Sure.
Foundation engineer, which is not cheap.
Right. But your buyers really want it. Right? What options are we presenting to our clients? Right, you all are the experts. And rather than, immediately saying, all right, let's walk. What are the options? And by the way, that is an option. Like I had a similar thought that Sherry did. My first thought with my clients is $20,000 and $30,000 I know is a stretch because they're already stretched thin on their down payment. So anything above that is going to be a significant issue for us. So I'm probably going to lean the side that Sherry did and say, I think we need to probably ask for a release and keep looking. But let's say they're not at that point yet. What are we doing with our buyers? How are we advising them?
Ben from Hall of Contracting.
Okay.
Because he did this for me 2 weeks ago, he'll be there tomorrow and for free, give us his estimate and cost.
Okay, so maybe finding a contractor that will give a free estimate. Okay, what else? What else could we do? Do you think there's a potential to ask the seller for any potential additional repair credits? You think that's a recourse we could take? Okay, so let's say Ben comes in. Ben takes a look at it in 2 days, gives you an estimate, and it's really right around 15,000 heat vents, right? And the seller is offering 5 in repair. So we still have a $10,000 gap, right? What will we do there? Any chance we could get back to the negotiating table and say, hey, seller, any chance you could give us 10 or 7,500? And then maybe even negotiate on purchase price. Potentially even go up above asking do some work with the lender. Have a conversation, what can they swing? Right, can we lower the down payment, maybe they were coming in at 10% down payment or 5%. Maybe they lower that 5% down payment down to 3. Seller agrees to 7,500 and they cover the rest. By lowering their down payment. Right? Those are some of the solutions. The house has been on the market for 45 days. Here's what I'm gonna tell you, 45 days right now, selling a house within 45 days, good. Homes are sitting on the market longer. It's not really uncommon at this point to see homes sit on the market longer than 2 months. There's some houses right here in Hamburg that, in my opinion, are actually valued really well. They've been on the market almost 90 days. So part of this is also, well, do we want to go ahead, ask for a release, monitor the situation, keep going to look, maybe even throw in a backup offer here because we know it's set on the market for 45 days? Or what? I'd be really interested to hear both what Trisha and Sherry would do in this situation. You kind of already leaned one way. So let's say this is very real for you. What are you doing in this situation?
Well, I would go that route, but I'd also, if, you know, a contractor like Ben were willing to do the work and get paid at closing, I
Oh,
would lean toward getting the seller to agree to that.
interesting. What do you mean by that, Sherry?
Well, like, some contractors can afford to go ahead and do the work and then get paid at closing, because they know they're gonna get paid, because it's
Okay.
close. So they'll go ahead and do it, and then the seller just agree, you know, makes a contract with them to pay it.
Right.
But the other thing that concerns me is that the work has to be done before it can close, because more than likely, the lender's not gonna finance it.
Bring us some great points. How do you know that a contractor would maybe do the work and be okay with getting paid at closing? How do you find that information out? Oh, and how would you network? Would you get to know them? Would you create a vendor list of more than one contractor? Yeah, there's a lot that goes into problem solving, and some of it might look like going to a happy hour with local businesses. Some of it might look like going and joining a BNI group. Some of it might look like just rubbing shoulders with other real estate adjacent industries and figuring out what they can do before you ever even get to a problem to solve for your clients. The best agents in town have a VIP list of vendors that if this ever happened, they know exactly who to call, can give their client a timeline, and probably even a decent amount of estimated costs. Right? And there might even be somebody who would, for a regular client who they didn't do a ton of business with, say, hey, I can come out and do a $250 estimate and tell you. But if you've done business with a structural engineer or a contractor and you're building that relationship, they might just do it for free because they've gotten a ton of business for you, or they know they'll be taken care of. Right? All right. So you're probably looking around, maybe seeking if there's any financing on the actual project itself, but you're probably doing your due diligence, saying, let's go ahead and ask for a release, right? Reaching out to the listing agent. And here's the thing, even on the new contract, this is a significant enough issue that you'll be able to get released from it, okay? Now, you still have to have the conversation. You got to be a pro about it. You need to communicate with the listing agent. Right, and this would be even something I would be monitoring to see if the seller's disclosure changes, right? If it hits the back and goes active. Because here's what the listing agent is going to do in this scenario. They're going to get that release. They're going to have a very candid conversation with their client. They're going to say, this is a significant issue. We either need to pay to get it fixed, get our own quotes. We need to come down on the price. And we need to probably update that seller's disclosure, right? Because whether they knew about it or not, this is a problem for them that will impact and influence how they sell it. Right? Trisha, anything else you might consider or think through doing?
covered it all. My advice to my folks is always, look, I want you to have the house that you love, but I want you to have a safe house. If it's not safe and we can't do something to get it safe, even if you suggested, if the estimate is 15,000 and the seller gives 10, I would still have a serious conversation with my buyer. I'm like, look, that leaves $5,000. And this is a repair that, in my advice, you should handle almost immediately. It's not oh, we'll get to it. Oh, it's not like painting a bedroom.
Right.
If you are not able and in a position to fix it right when you move in, realistically, when would you do that?
Sure.
And the longer it goes, the more problems you're gonna have. So how do we get it either resolved before you close, ideally, or know that you have a financial situation to be able to handle it immediately when you close?
Yeah.
So then you have 30 years in this house.
Right, and the dream house that you thought it was ceases to exist, right? Because you probably would not have put it under contract if you had that information prior. Right? That's the other thing I think about, is if this was an issue we knew about going in, would we have written a contract? And if the answer is no, then it's probably best practice to move on. Now, if it's found out that the roof is in dire shape and you need a new one, roofs are a little, I think, easier to overcome. And those are a little bit different, right? But what I will tell you is in this one, especially with a foundation, that is a significant issue. And obviously one you would not put under contract if you had the prior knowledge, right? And that just reinforces the issue the seller now has to overcome. All right, next scenario, scenario 2. All right, Katie, think you can read that for us?
Your clients are under contract for a home in Beaumont Center in Lexington, but they just discovered that HOA has extremely strict regulations they weren't initially aware of, including no home businesses. They run a small online boutique from home. Restrictions on exterior paint colors, they wanted to paint the front door bright blue, and limitations on holiday decorations. They're known for their elaborate Christmas displays. The seller's agent claims all HOA documents were provided in the disclosures, but your clients insist they never received the complete bylaws. You're wondering how it's.
Okay. Who are we representing here?
Fine.
The buyers. Are we under contract? Yes, it says we're under contract. How far are we from closing?
1 week.
Okay, now all of a sudden we have an HOA problem. Let's be real, is an HOA problem a significant issue here? Yeah. Can I ask something just very transparently? Who do we think's at fault here? Is it you, the buyer's agent? Or is it the listing agent? In this scenario, who's the bad guy?
If the HOA documents were in the MLS, when you click on those documents and you did not send them to your client, that's on you, no question.
Okay. Let's say you knew that there was an HOA, but you didn't bother looking into anything other than what it cost.
I mean, that's also on you, especially if you have these, if you know your buyers and you have these, you know them on a personal level, and you, like, they run a small line boutique from home, that should have come up in conversation with your buyers, you know this, it's in your mind as any house we look at or are gonna put a contract on, I need to check on. At least to me.
You think having an online business that people work from home is more common these days? You think this could come up in a real life scenario? Lexi and I actually talked about this morning. I actually don't think that's the problem. Because the online boutique from home suggests that there is actually not really any business facing things happening. Right? They're probably mailing things out, FedEx, UPS, whatever, but there's not business coming into the neighborhood that would be affecting this HOA. So that actually might be a non-starter. The piece that shocks me right here is that the buyer's agent here, you didn't know your HOA restrictions. These aren't a secret. HOA restrictions aren't a secret. Deed restrictions are a little harder to track down, but HOA, yeah, you should definitely figure out how to find those. Sometimes they're on Facebook groups. Guess who definitely did have them? The listing agent. If you are repping a buyer and they're considering a home that's in an HOA absolutely, you need to be communicating with the listing agent around what kind of HOA restrictions are there, what information is out there, what documentation do they have, is it a brochure or one pager? And you need to directly hand that off to your client. And here's going a step further, because we get in the process of being speedy and going the path of least resistant. Sit down with them. Don't just send them digital documents, assuming that they go over everything. Because even if you send it to them and they don't look over it, well, yeah, they're at fault and you did your job technically. But I would say that's not the highest level of service. Right? Anytime I send over digital documents, I always let my clients know, hey, we're gonna sit down and we're gonna go over these documents. Now, if these are repeat clients and they're familiar with me and we've been over these contracts more than once and they're not a first time home buyer, then maybe I leave it at a phone conversation. But if these people are new to me or they're a first time home buyer, I'm sending them digital documents and I'm sitting down and I'm going over everything. So you're 1 week from closing. Now you have to save face with your buyers. Now you have to figure out via the HOA restrictions around, can they operate their business or is that going to be a problem? That's your number one piece, right? Getting a hold of those HOA restrictions and information, sitting down with your client, seeing if that's truly going to impact the business they run, because it may or may not. But then this other piece, right? They're known for their elaborate Christmas decoration. And I guess at the end of the day, you have to have a conversation with them. Is that a deal breaker? For some of them, it might be. But if it's the dream home, and that's the only knock out of the 99 thing or the 100 things, and they're checking 99 boxes, I don't know, maybe they still close. I probably have a really hard time with a client who would want to move on from a deal because they couldn't put up their 30-foot snowman. Right? We get creative and figure out how to do it. Maybe we get HOA special permission to throw a December event where we can blow them up. Maybe not have them up the whole time, but can still use them. Right? Any other thoughts? Buyer's agent tripped up here. This is where they've gotta fix it. All right, scenario number 3. I'll go ahead and read this. This is a fun one. You're representing buyers who are looking in the popular Andover neighborhood in Lexington. They found their dream home listed at $650 and want to be competitive in what they know will be a multiple offer situation. The comparable sales for the past 3 months range from anywhere from $590,000 to $675,000. Here's the situation. They're pre-approved for a conventional loan up to $700, 10% down. They have an additional $30,000 in savings beyond their down payment. It's a good one. The seller has already let you all know that there are multiple offers. Recent sales in the neighborhood, though, have been appraising for $20,000 to $25,000 less, below contract price. Interesting. So what you know to be true is homes are appraising about $20,000 less below contract price. The listing agent has hinted they're looking for offers with appraisal gap coverage. Okay, there's a lot going on here. And there's more. The appraisal comes in at $625. Right? You're under contract at $650. Appraisal comes in at $625. Inspection reveals there's $10,000 needed in repairs. Okay, so by the way, congratulations, you won the multiple offer situation. Put it in at list price, $650. The sellers want proof of funds for the entire potential gap amount. So let's just say we're not fully under contract, we're negotiating. Right? There's been a counter. They're saying, okay, but the timing of this is weird. Hold on, let me back up.
Yeah, you can do the first slide.
So let's talk through this first. Okay, so let's just say it's listed at $650 and you know all these things. But you also know that bullet point. That fourth bullet point down there and the fifth one. Those are the key things. So you're representing this buyer, the home's listed at 650,000. You know your clients are approved up to 700. But you know there's an appraisal issue here. Homes are selling above what the appraised market is. How are we structuring an offer? Trisha, what do you think?
Always hate these because there's so many different variables.
Sure.
Like, the first answer is do an escalation clause with your offer. So
Okay.
that you can beat the other offers.
Okay.
But that's not always the right answer because that could get them. Now they beat an offer, but they were gonna beat that offer anyway because that offer didn't have appraisal coverage.
Okay.
So it's a balancing act. For me, I lay out the options to my clients and let them.
Something fun's happening up there.
Rosemary's here, y'all.
Okay. But are you making an offer at list? Or are you escalating it to above list is my question.
If there's already two offers, step one, I'm asking the listing agent, can you tell me if any offers are at or above?
Okay.
See what they say. If they've indicated something about their at list price, close to list price, then yeah, my advice is we start there.
Okay.
And then.
So you're gonna go ahead and ask the listing agent for a little more information.
Oh, I hope.
Okay.
Or converse,
Yeah,
chat,
okay.
people get
You
chatty
did
sometimes.
say you push, okay. Okay,
Agents too.
Sherry, what about you? You've got this situation right here, 650,000. Homes are appraising for about 20 to 25 less. They've got multiple offers. How are you approaching this with your clients? You coming in at lists? We escalating? What are we doing?
Escalate.
Okay, so you're gonna come in under and escalate, add in an escalation clause, okay? Everybody in here know what an escalation clause is. All right, let's talk real quick about an escalation clause. So an escalation clause is something that you add to the contract that allows you to come in at a lower price point, but gives you the opportunity to beat a certain number by 200, $1, 500, right? So let's say, hey, we're gonna come in at 640,000, but we've added an escalation clause to 655,000. And we're gonna beat any offer by $500, right? That's an escalation clause. That's a conversation you have upfront with your buyers about securing a home in a multiple offer situation. In my opinion, I love the escalation clause, especially in a multiple offer situation. But we also know that there's an appraisal gap. You might be able to offer 640 without an escalation clause and offer $10,000 in appraisal gap. Right? Because what do we have? They have an additional $30,000 in savings for their down payment that they don't have to go check with a bank with about covering an appraisal gap. Right? So if the appraisal gap is only 10 grand, you're still sitting on an additional 20 in your savings that you can still do. You can still work with. So let's just say you get under contract for 645, no escalation clause, and a $15,000 appraisal gap. Let's say those are scenarios. I'm going to write that down. Okay. So 645. No escalation. But honestly, the appraisal gap is your escalation here. But you're gonna agree to appraisal gap of up to 15. Okay, which could put you at 660. And we're gonna keep in mind, we have 30 in savings. All right. So we won the offer. We're under contract. We've got an appraisal gap. But comes in at 625. What's the gap now? What's the appraisal gap officially?
650.
You were under contract for 645. 20.
20.
Yeah. So the real appraisal gap is 20K. And we agreed to 15, right? We agreed that if it was an appraisal gap of 15 grand, we'd be good. To add another wrinkle in, home inspections come back, there's about 10,000 worth of repairs. Not only that, seller wants proof of funds to go any further. So we've got a real appraisal gap of 20K, which is 5,000 more than what you agreed to. You're still sitting on 15,000 in savings. And so if we follow through with this, what did we just do? What did we wipe out completely? The appraisal gap and the savings. Because we know there's a $10,000 expense in repair. So that's 25, and there's an additional 5,000 in the appraisal gap. Which puts you about 20,000 to cover the appraisal gap, and the other 10 to make the necessary repairs. And then that savings all of a sudden is bled out. What are our options here? You're thinking a lot, Tricia. What would?
Yeah, there's the spot.
Okay.
I would, ideally, they would have come at separate times, so you're negotiating each of these
Sure.
individually, but say conflict, now
Yeah.
here's the scenario. Well, the appraisal gap, if your contract was 15,000 appraisal gap, that's the new sale price. That's the sale price, because that's what we signed a contract that we would cover an appraisal gap of, seller take care of it.
Okay.
Unless my buyer is saying, oh, pay more.
So what you're saying is really we're at 630.
If that's what the contract says your appraisal gap coverage is, that's what you're in contract. So start there, that's the new. And then so, okay, Mr. Seller, agent, proof of funds for that, 15,000. I'll show you, I can show you that bank account statement from
Mm-hmm.
bank, whatever. And now you gotta negotiate the 10,000. Seller's agent doesn't need to see that you've got 10,000, an extra 10,000.
Right, that's the seller's agent, this is irrelevant.
So now you negotiate the 10,000 needed repairs, just like we talked about before. Are you doing credit? Are you reducing the price another 10,000? What are you doing with that? Are
Right.
you getting it done before close? What are you doing?
So what would you do with the 10,000?
If the seller, again, if this, ideally, it's done before closing. Seller pays or pay at close and then they know it's done. If they won't do that and my folks are okay with that, then ideally a $10,000 credit, so my folks have the money.
Okay. So they're gonna net a little less and maybe walk away with 620?
It almost happens,
Okay.
if I'm the buyer's agent.
Is the seller gonna do that?
It depends, and were you in my file? Because I had, this is my last month and we're closing
Okay.
tomorrow,
Okay.
yeah.
Look, I'll be honest with you, I don't see the seller coming down that much. I don't think they agree to. Just personally. Right? Especially. Knowing that 675 is in the comp range. Right?
Yeah, but they've got an appraisal.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. You don't think some sellers ignore that stuff?
Well, I'm confused if all the appraisals are coming in below contract price. Now I've got a question for appraisers, because if your appraisal is supposed to be market value, if
Sure.
multiple properties are getting those contracts. Come on, appraisers.
Maybe it's a lister issue. And what I mean by that, maybe we don't have sellers, we have listers. I cannot tell you how many homes are currently on the market for about $20,000 more than what they should. I cannot tell you how many transactions I've seen over the last 6 months in this office, not just the larger board. But by the way, it's true for the larger board and it's true nationally. That listings are getting taken at about $20,000 to $25,000 more than what they're selling at. So some of it is how we're pricing homes, which is why last week we had a healthy conversation around pricing strategies in a shift.
In our defense, it's extremely difficult right now.
I agree with you.
If I can go back 3 months and go back 6 months and go back a year, which the appraisers will do. And
Yeah.
you're gonna find
You're gonna
that
Yeah,
in every neighborhood.
I agree.
it's like throwing darts.
Yeah, and I've got one right now, and I just tell them, I said, you know, this is what it looks like to me, I know it'll appraise to that. But whether we're gonna get an offer or not, 2 weeks from coming down. I mean, you just have to.
And I always frame it as like, look, if I have to appeal an appraisal, here is what I would use and here is what I feel comfortable arguing. If you try to make me argue for this, I'm not gonna do it because I'll look like an idiot.
Well, and sometimes
Here's what I would feel
yeah.
comfortable.
sometimes the appraisal argument gets muddied with just the timeline.
Yeah.
Because then we have to go in front of the appraiser board. Do our or present our argument, our case. Then they have to mediate over it, come to a conclusion. Think that pushes closing out? Does that cause a domino effect with everybody involved? Yeah, sometimes you absolutely want to avoid doing that. I did Tidewater on a VA loan, right? Because there was a $20,000 gap in this particular transaction. And I told my clients, I said, we can report this appraiser, we can do Tidewater, we can go to the appraiser board. But that's about a 21-day timeline. Which they couldn't do and neither could the seller. And we had things stacked. So my clients were selling their home, buying a new home. The home they were buying, those people were moving to Alabama. They were on a strict timeline. And so my clients were on a strict timeline to close properly. And the people buying their house also had their house on the market. And so we had like 5 or 6 transactions stacked all at once. Right? And so I told my clients, I said, look, we have wiggle room in what we talked about in what you can take home, what you can net. We have wiggle room in the conversation you had with your lender about being house broke, money for repairs, or upgrades you want to do when you bought it. And so we went back to the negotiating table. We went back to the buyers and we said, look, we absolutely need to make this deal go through and close because we're on a timeline. We are happy to come to this place and settle at this purchase price, which was exactly halfway. We came down 10, buyers came up 10, and we closed. I didn't appeal. Cooler heads prevailed. We had wiggle room. The buyers fortunately had some room. And look, they were already under contract for above it, so we knew they could pay for it, right? And so we married in the middle, right? Sometimes that's what you have to do. Real estate is tough. There's a lot of things that happen, a lot of curveballs. I don't know that I've ever had a completely smooth transaction where everything went as planned. Sherry, do you?
Actually, I have,
Okay.
but they're few and far between.
Yeah, there's a lot less of those. What about you, Tricia?
Occasionally, and you enjoy it.
Okay.
It's funny, you use the cooler heads prevail.
Yeah.
Every time, if you stay cool yourself, regardless of how the other agent's doing it, which a lot of times they're your worst clients or, you know.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I just had one yesterday and it started out in the morning was kind of in a negative and I was getting a little bit, upset with the seller who happens to be an owner agent. Anyway, long story short, when your text messages and everything, you're going back and forth, you don't really know what that tone is, but it may read negatively. And within a few minutes, I figured out it really wasn't. But I took it that way immediately, so I had to talk to myself before I talked to my client. And the client was saying, we're not gonna do this, we're, you know, and I'm like, everybody says something when they're in the heat of the moment emotionally, but just stay cool, because they'll work it out in their mind.
Yeah.
And then they'll come back and come around.
Yeah.
I've learned, I'll say, I've got some information for you, we don't need a decision right now, I'm gonna give it to you and let you sit with it for a couple minutes, and then I'll call you back in an hour.
Yeah.
That's what I've started sometimes doing, especially
Yeah,
when you know those people that are
real
gonna,
fast.
they're gonna, okay, sit with that for a minute, I'll call you back in an hour.
Yeah, and so a couple things. Look, this situation right here, there's a lot of room to work with. There's a lot of scenarios to win. This is probably going to get to close. And there's a number of ways you can do it to leverage the appraisal gap coming up, coming down, right? There's also, the inspections, the repairs needed, they might be pushed out further. And you've got 30,000 in a savings account, right? But what I will say is something that both Trisha and Sherry hit on. Your energy, your demeanor, the pace in which you move dictates everything. Keep in mind, the client is not leading the transaction, you are. You are a leader, a fiduciary, and you're leading to their desired outcome. And a lot of times what I will say, and this is something I learned early in my, probably in my first transaction is, bad news doesn't get better with age. And what I mean by that is putting off conversations because it's either confrontational or it's not what your client wants to hear, does not help anybody. Right? And here's what bad news is with the right agent. It's just news. It's new information. And your delivery and your tone and your energy and your approach will dictate truly how they potentially respond. 1000% it has an effect on how your clients respond to it. Because if you are calm, cool, and collected, a lot of times they might be calm about it. And you come calm and you come ready with 2 or 3 solutions or 2 or 3 options. Right? And you hold it together. And you know what really, really helps? Is when the agent on the other side is that way. And guess what? That's not always promised. And that's not always delivered. A lot of times they're the escalators. But there's a decision you get to make as you navigate problems or issues within transactions, and your energy matters. And bad news maybe isn't even bad news. Maybe it's just news, and with the right solution, you still get to that desired outcome. Right? My clients still got their home. They sold it for a little less. And you know what they didn't get? They didn't get carpet on the stairs when they wanted it. But they got the home they wanted, in the timeline they wanted. And you know what else? They wound up getting those stairs covered with carpet within their first 18 months. Frank got a bonus. He made it work. But that's what you do. Sometimes you concede, hey, you were gonna spend that money doing this. Instead, we spent the money ensuring our home sold and we got into where we really want to be. Even if we didn't check that 1 box out of 10. Right?
There's a great book I'd like to recommend. It's called Everything is Figure Out.
Yeah, I like that.
And it's true. Everything, there is a solution for everything. You just gotta put your mind in there and try to stay calm.
Yeah, well, and the truth is, sometimes the solution is next.
Sure.
What's next? Next house. All right, Lexi's got some gold for you.
Alright, so we were gonna play Cahoots, but we'll play that next week, so come back for some fun Kentucky real estate Cahoots. Today we're gonna talk about publishing template pages on your website. So there is a lot of things that you can do with your website. You can make custom pages, you can make landing pages, you can make all sorts of stuff. But there are also some templated pages that you just have to click on and hit publish, and it adds them straight to your website. Okay, so in your command, you're gonna come into your command. The very bottom applet on the left is your website applet. Hold on, let me move this to my personal. You're gonna hit edit agent site. This is the, I don't know, beginner friendly version of the website editing. It is horrible. Don't use it. Just ignore it. Act like this is just another screen. You're gonna click on expert mode up top. I promise it is okay. So much easier than that one, okay? Website. Yep, commands, bottom, website applet, edit agent site, expert mode. That will put you here. This is the bright spot editor of your actual website. So on this quick start guide here, you will see that they have some templates for you. So they've already created a page for download my app. You are not asking your clients to download your KW app and you like it to search for homes. You need to. We do not want our clients on Zillow because the last thing we want is them to select connect with agent or contact or view house or whatever and get connected to a Zillow agent. Right, we want them hitting that contact agent and it coming to us, not to another agent, okay? So this is a great one. There's a mortgage calculator on here, a home valuation page, and then a why work with KW page. So these are super simple. Any of these templated page, you're just gonna click on it. It's gonna open up the page preview. It's gonna show you what it looks like. If you wanted to add something in here, you absolutely can. Like for this home valuation, I do suggest that you hit add module, scroll all the way down to the bottom, click on form, and then change this to a contact form. All this is doing is adding a contact form to the bottom of the page. So that if they're like, oh crap, no, that's not what I wanted, I'll just ask them, never mind, right? I like the contact forms on the bottom of all of the pages, okay? So for this one, that is my suggestion. I think all of the other ones already have a contact form. I'm not sure why they didn't add it to this one. But that's all we're gonna do on this one. You guys can get fancier with it if you want. Home valuation. There are more we can do to it, but just for the simplicity of this is just a template page. You're just gonna add that and you're just gonna hit publish. So all of the other ones, the why work with KW, the mortgage calculator, they are all set for you. You'll click it open, hit publish in the top right. These are custom pages, so these are gonna fall within your more menu. So on your website, you'll click the menu, click more, all these pages are gonna fall in there. They're already built for you guys. You don't have
You
to
can go back and say how to do that.
how to add the contact form. Yeah, so it's gonna look, if you scroll down this side, it's just gonna have this home value search component piece. You're gonna hit add module. And then you're gonna scroll all the way down to the bottom. And click on form. It's kind of at the top of the additional modules. Third one down.
You do a class on like
Scroll down on the
best
right
way
side.
to use our website and we can like do it together.
Actually,
Yep. And then when this pops up, it's gonna be blank right here. It'll say share, but this will be blank. You just click on it. There's only one option. Like it's like a blank module or a form. They only have one form option and it's the contact form right now. So. Okay, so. It'll automatically just pop in. And then you'll just hit publish and these will all pop in here. So if you wanted to add your mortgage calculator, which I've already added this to my site, but mortgage calculator just looks like this. It's already got a contact form on it and you just hit publish. It'll add it straight to your website. Okay, so my suggestion is to utilize the default pages. For example, this why work with KW, you may not necessarily need it. It essentially just walks through the why 4C2Ts and why it's important to work with an agent that believes in things like why 4C2Ts, like in a nutshell, that's pretty much what it is. It's wordy, it's all the things. It may not be something that you're like, yeah, I want that on my page, but what it's going to do is it's gonna support your SEO rankings on the back end. You have more pages connected to a homepage that have the right SEO keywords and all of that kind of stuff, so it's just gonna boost your website ranking. So my suggestion is to publish all of the template pages, unless you specifically have a reason not to. And again, that's kind of entirely up to you. So short, sweet, and to the point, effective, adding your published pages in there. If you guys have any other questions about those, please let me know. Don't forget about the holiday smart plans. The first step of that first holiday smart plan is the 20th. So you have 7 days to get that first one running before we have to kind of start getting fancy with it. So make sure you're using those holiday smart plans. What's new in the market center? We're doing headshots again on January 28th, right after team meeting. So if you need new headshots, please come on the 28th. Don't forget we're doing the Valentine's for seniors. If you or your little ones or anybody that you know wants to make Valentine's for the seniors, you can drop those off to Hallie. We've got Investor Club right after this. This evening we have Learn and Share Hour. So it is not specifically for anybody, So it's not like only for new agents, it's for anybody who wants to come. Share what you're doing, share what's working for you, ask questions about what's working for other people. It's really just a time to like work together and network together. So that'll be tonight at 5:30. Tomorrow is sessions 5, 6, 7, and 8 of Ignite, starting with Ms. Tricia in the morning.
Let me get back to you, we're still sorting out when.
Okay.
when they're closing.
There will be
If you
Ignite
can
tomorrow.
swap, I can come in.
Thursday, zero out your cap. Understanding forms, settlement statements, and closing costs. If you do not know how to read an Alta, you need to be there. Okay. And then we have career night on Thursday. So if you know of anybody who is interested in getting their real estate license, or they're in school studying for their real estate license, Thursday night here, they need to be here. You wanna take anything?
Yeah, look, family reunion is coming up. This is definitely something you should consider going to. It's good as a learning place for your business, learning what best practices are. That's a big deal. But also the whole goal, in my opinion, when you go to the national events, is to find referral partners. I know that we have a ton of agents, when they go to this, they get at least one piece of business. So that ultimately pays for itself, right? If you wanna go and you wanna talk about it, just come see me and I'll give you all the information you need. I think it's certainly worth going. We've probably got 10 or so people going, so it should be pretty exciting.
I'm gonna be on panel, y'all. So
That's true.
come to family reunions.
That's a big deal.
Look, last year Tara was on a panel, I was on a panel, and this year Tara and Lexi will be on a panel. So.
It'll be great. And also, if you ever look at our referral pattern map in Command, what is one city that is always on that referral for incoming referrals into Lexington? Yes, Naperville usually. Las Vegas is always on the list of places that are bringing internal or referrals into Lexington. So go make a friend in Las Vegas and get a referral, okay? Best Year Ever series. These are some really great articles for the following things. If you guys ever interested in learning more about time blocking, GPSs, 411s, any of those kinds of things, their links are here. Next Gen Quantum Leap was rescheduled, so if you had somebody who was interested and maybe you just couldn't make the time or didn't want to with a snowstorm, it has been rescheduled to April 5th, still gonna be in Cincinnati. There's still a group of us that are going up for the presenter preview and some other things, so please hop in with us if you wanna go. And that's it.
All right, folks, if you're gonna stay for Investor Club, we will be here. Go grab some coffee, a drink, and use the bathroom, and then I'll start right around 11:05. Okay?